At this time, I'd like to welcome up, all the way from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Mr. Antonio Adair.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Great.
How the rest of you guys doing? Everybody okay? No one wanted to sit up front? If you were at a concert, where would you want to sit? And so we have some great information. I mean, they say the best information that you're going to receive is going to be right here on the front row. I'm just letting you know what they told me 17 years ago when I decided to get into the home-based business industry. Mr. Hall, I appreciate all the accolades, what he shared. I guess we kind of met in passing just a few years ago, stayed in contact, and it's very rare that you come across people who are successful, but then they handle success well. Does that kind of make sense? So he's a very successful person, but not only that, he just handles success well. Can you guys help me give him a round of applause for that introduction that he gave me? Awesome. I'm just going to share with you my story, and my story is no different from anyone else's. I just got fed up with being fed up, if you will. I grew up in the Maryland, D.C. area. Matter of fact, I grew up in the same area that Sugar Ray Leonard grew up in, okay? After high school, I went straight into the Navy. I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, went to Hampton University for what I call a trimester. I tried. College wasn't my thing. I'm an advocate of education, but I just work better with my creative side of my brain than the analytical side, if that kind of makes sense, right? I get out of the Navy, I move back home to Maryland, I go to barber school, I get my barber's license. I get a job at the post office, I become a delivery supervisor, I open up my own small business. So I just tried a little bit of everything, just attempting to get ahead in life. And 17 years ago was my introduction to direct sales, network marketing, home-based business. And when I was at the post office, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week. Still living from paycheck to paycheck. Not sure if anyone can relate to that, right? I had an epiphany 17 years ago, and that was this, that most people work a job not to be able to pay their bills. So 70 to 80 hours a week, I'm $25,000 in credit card debt. You name the creditor, I owed them. Okay, you guys remember the call ID boxes right? And when it came up unavailable, I was unavailable too because I knew it was a credit card company calling me, right? So $25,000 in credit card debt, student loan mafia chased me all over the place. They will find you and get theirs, right? I'm like, how'd you get this number? Anyways, I had a nice shiny Lexus back then, chrome rims, fully loaded, no insurance, okay? And so look good, smell good, broke. That was my situation. And I was very vulnerable when it came to my finances. I just hated being in that situation. So I remember having a conversation with my mom. I said, look, I've done everything you told me to do. I got a job now. I'm making like 70 grand a year, you know. I said, I've done everything you told me to do. I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week, but I still can't pay my bills. She says, Tony, why don't you go out and get a part-time job? So I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week. And my mom says to go out and get a part-time job, right? And she would always say, she says, look, I want you to have more than what I had. I want you to be able to do better than what I did. See, the only issue there was that she could only teach me what she knew. In order for me to have more and do better, I had to learn from someone who had more and did better. Does that kind of make sense? Now, let's say that Oprah was my mom. I'd have called her up. I said, look, I've done everything you told me to do. I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week. You know, what's the next instruction? She probably would have said, well, you know, instead of getting a part-time job, she probably would have said, well, you know what? Let's think about a good company to start or a good company to buy. Just a little difference in concepts and philosophies and the way we think. Does that kind of make sense, right? And so I go from being in the military. I was in the military from 87 to 91, okay? Those 4 years that I was in the military, collectively, I earned about $40,000. So that average it wasn't even 10 grand a year, okay? Because some years I made like 8,000 a year and 9,000 a year, right? And so I go from earning 40,000 in 4 years to I get a job at the post office, and then I start to earn 70,000 a year. So if you go from 40,000 over 4 years to 70,000 a year, you're like rich. Big difference, right? Big difference. And so getting to a point where, once again, just working, not being able to pay my bills, and most folks try to make ends meet. That's why they call them ends, because they don't meet. And some folks never get that revelation, right? That's why they call them ends. And so I get involved with the home-based business, direct sales industry, and my best month thus far in the industry has been about $53,000 in a single month. So we go from $40,000 over 4 years to 70 grand a year to 50,000 a month. Now I want you guys to understand this. I'm no different from anyone here. You know, I was a solid C student in school. My mom said, bring me some good grades. C's, that's the best I could do, right? I never made honor roll, not one time. Anyway, I did my best. If that makes any sense, right? So looking at just different wealth principles, different concepts, the thing that has really afforded me the ability to become successful in business is simply this. When I was in school, and you guys, same thing. When we were in school, they told us it was a bad thing to copy someone else's paper. It was a bad thing to duplicate, right? And so I get involved with the business industry, and I get some mentors, I get some coaches, okay? And they said, you know what, if you just do exactly what I've done, you get the same results, right? And so I said, you know what, I'm just gonna treat this like it's school for me, you know? So when I was in school, the tests that I had the best chance to duplicate, those are the best grades I got. Does this kind of make sense, right? And so I just treat this industry the same way, because if you're gonna copy someone, just make sure you copy the right cat. Make sense there, right? So I get involved, and I remember transitioning from working at the post office to, you know, becoming an entrepreneur. And I remember walking into the personnel office, and I said, "Look, I'm done. I want to resign." And I was like, "What?" I was in my 20s at that time, right? And they were like, well, what about your thrift savings plans? That's the post office retirement plan. And one thing that I knew was that I was not going to be there to retire. I never invested in any retirement plan. And I had no idea of what God had for me, but I just knew that it was a good place to start. It just wasn't going to be a good place for me to finish. Does this kind of make sense? And so as I'm sitting there, I'm filling out these papers to walk away from the post office, of course, fear sets in. Fear sets in, and so write this down. There's a part of your mind that doesn't like you. And that part of your mind that doesn't like you, if you listen to it, it will talk you out of everything you need to do, right? So either you control those thoughts, or those thoughts will forever control you. So I'm sitting there, I'm filling out this paperwork, I'm resigning, you know, I'm shaking in my boots, I'm extremely nervous. And at that point, I'm already over 6 figures a year. So I'm at 30,000 plus what the post office was paying me in 3.5 years, okay? Getting involved with this industry in 3.5 years, I'm beyond 70,000 a year. Does this kind of make sense? But some of us are just negative by nature. And my thing was, you know what? I made a decision 17 years ago where I was gonna follow the truth regardless of where it took me. I was just going to follow the truth regardless of where it took me, right? But I'm still sitting there, and I have an uncle. His name is Anthony as well. It's crazy. I have an uncle. His name is Anthony. And you know how you got some family members where because you're doing something different and you're going against the grain, it makes them feel uncomfortable, right? Write this down as well. Where there's hope, there's hate. Not everybody's going to be happy for you. Because now you're going to go from the 9 to 5 to thinking from a different perspective, right? And so I'm extremely blessed. I start to have the success. Okay, I go out and I purchase my dream home, 8,000 square feet on 9.5 acres. I invite my uncle over. We had a family dinner there. I invite my uncle over. 5 bedrooms, 5 full baths. And so the family room was about this size. So we're all in the family room. My sister loves the house. And so she's taking everybody on tours of the house, right? So my uncle comes in, he plops down on the couch, and my sister says, you want me to take you on a tour? And there's a back stairwell, okay? And then as you come into the house in the foyer, there's a stairwell there as well, but there's a back stairwell from the family room. So my uncle is sitting right here. The stairwell is behind him. And my sister says, won't you just come on up and look at the house? He says, isn't this just a 1-floor house? It's 3 stories. But because where there's hope, there's hate, he could not even conceive that that stairwell behind him led upstairs. Here's the same uncle who told me that I was crazy, stupid is what he said, for leaving that $70,000 a year government job. And he's the type of guy, when I went to barber school, he decided he wanted, I've never cut his hair, back then when I was in barber school. And so he wants to cut his own hair, right? And he jacks it up. Not only does he jack up his haircut, he just goes crazy with the clippers, okay? He shaves off all of his facial hair, eyebrows included. I'm like, what's going on, right? But he just could not, like I said, where there's hope, there's hate, okay? And because of the success that I was having, it just made him a little uncomfortable, okay? And I'm a very humble guy. I'm a very humble guy because of me joining the industry of network marketing, home-based business, and going against the grain. I've been blessed with the ability to retire my mom over a decade ago. My mom has not worked a job now in over a decade. The only other way I thought I'd be able to do that is by being into entertainment, okay? Or maybe I would be retiring from the NFL or the NBA. That didn't work out. So I'm thankful for this entrepreneur spirit, okay?